Right. And Jim, he's done this at multiple programs.
Right.
Which
Stanford,
San Diego State, San Francisco, Michigan. So the fundamentals work no matter where he is.
Right.
And so that's what we're kind of looking at from a football standpoint today. But we also want to look at the parallels to our own lives. And what does it mean to live by the fundamentals? What are the fundamentals? And specifically for us as followers of Jesus, what are the fundamentals of the faith?
Mm-hmm.
And so I was thinking about, this time of year, we're getting into the fall, and it's a new season, summer's over, and school starts and football starts, and we kind of got to reset a little bit and refocus and realign. And in some ways, we have to remind ourselves of the fundamentals. And oftentimes when a head coach begins training camp, and Vince Lombardi used to do this, I think Bill Belichick, it's like, hey, this is a football. You start there. And so for us, we've got to start with, okay, what are the fundamentals of the faith? What is the gospel? Do I know the gospel? Do I believe the gospel? Am I living by the gospel? And am I following Jesus in all areas of my life? Do I understand the message of the Bible? Do I understand, what God's purpose is for me? And this, comparison to the blocking and tackling in football. Like it's not complicated. It's simple, but you can't lose sight of it because it's so easy to get caught up in the high-powered offenses. And you get caught up in the stats, and you get caught up on the new shiny things. And we look across the league, a lot of new coaches, young coaches, good-looking coaches. Hey, let's go. And sometimes in life we're chasing the next thing, and now all of a sudden we're sort of maybe drifting from living by the truth of the gospel, the fundamentals of the gospel, and maybe our faith is getting a little weak, or we're just going through the motions, or we've lost focus a little bit. And so we got to realign and remind ourselves, this is a football, or this is the gospel. And so, Bob, why don't you jump in right there?
Well, I think going back to the analogy in football, that there's two narratives going on there. There's a narrative of it's about me, then there's another narrative that this is a team sport. Well, I think that's very true in our faith journey. We have a narrative of the world that says it's about me, and I'm trying to do everything I can to advance me. Well, that's not the kingdom of God. That's not the gospel. The kingdom of God is about advancing the principles and the ideals that Jesus set forth in the Sermon on the Mount, or when he talked about loving God and loving people. That's the narrative that we need to continue to remind ourselves of, in contrast to this flashy, me-centered, self-centered idea. So to me, this is a very great example of what does it look like for us to remember what are the principles of life that really do matter. This is a team environment. The kingdom of God is a team environment. It's not about me, and the story isn't about me. So when we talk about the gospel is the story that God has been telling since the beginning of time, with Jesus Christ as a redeeming hero. The story is about him. Now, that doesn't mean I'm unimportant. It just means it's not about me. I have a role. Bryce has a role. Aaron has a role. All of us have a role, but and we find our joy and we find our purpose when we align ourselves with that team, with that role. Just like Jim Harbaugh and John Harbaugh are trying to get those players to align themselves with it. And so for us, that's something we need to regularly be reminded of. Bob, this isn't about you today. Oh, man, I need to hear that. I don't know about you guys that are listening, but I often want to make the story about me. I wake up in the day and I'm wrestling with me. And it's just good for me to remember, look, this kingdom, Bob, is not about you, but you've got an important place to play when you submit to the overall team and to the overall ideals. So I find that very important to be reminded of, that Jesus is the center of it. He died to make me a part of that story, and that my place in the story gives me meaning and purpose, not when I make myself the center and try to boost my brand.
It's so good. And actually, I had the opportunity to preach on Sunday at my local church, and so we are going to share that sermon next Monday, or next Tuesday, I should say. And so that was actually about team. The title of our series was Together Everyone Achieves More. And so this concept of we all have a role to play. So I am right there with you. And so I will save my thoughts on that topic for next week. And so encourage people to check that out next week.
Yeah, I look forward to hearing those, Bryce, for sure.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. But that is true. So we have to lose our selfishness and let go of that. And then that allows us to get back to the fundamentals. Because if guys are showing up to training camp and it's all about me, well, then they're thinking about, all right, how many routes do I have? And when am I going to get the ball? And how many carries and touches and all that? Or it's, okay, I'm a part of the fundamentals of this team. And how's this team going to win? Together, we're going to run the ball. We're going to play good defense. We're not going to turn the ball over. And that's going to work for us.
And I'm going to play my part.
That's right.
If that's to block somebody, I'm going to block somebody. If it's to tackle somebody, or if it's to cover somebody, I'll play my part. And I'm not worried so much about, did I get on the top 10 at ESPN?
You know what? One of my favorite elements of a wide receiver is, are they willing to block? I
agree with you.
I look for it. I value it. I appreciate it. That's why I got so mad at George Pickens last year when he refused to block on a certain play, and I benched him on my fantasy team because of it. I had to prove a point there, Bob.
Okay.
But no, I love it when these even receivers, Musa Muhammad would block, Steve Smith would block for those running backs.
Well, and I think at least what Kelsey is a
George
great
Kittle
blocker. George Kittle, both are great tight ends because first they're great blockers.
That's right.
And at least that's what I've observed.
When you run the ball, it opens up the passing attack.
That's right.
So those are the fundamentals. You can't just, we're going to throw. No, we run to set up the pass.